Okay, so again, my name is Isabel Rosa. I'm from Portugal. I work in a public entity that is responsible for the transposition of the new directives in Portugal. For the agenda today, for the presentation, I would like to speak about three major issues for the actual legal framework we have. That is 7 years legal framework, the lessons we learned with that experience, and the challenge we have ahead for Portuguese transposition. As far for the legal framework, I would like to state that in 2008, for the first time, we merged together in one single diploma, one single law, the law for the public works and for goods and services. So in Portugal, since always, that we have separate laws, one law for public works, one law for goods and services. In 2008, we joined everything in one single document. The document was published in January 2008 and entered in force in July and transposed both directives 17 and 18 from European. We also have a set of ordinances that complement the public code. That is 8 ordinances that regulate. One of the major things is the information system. Not only that, but one of the major things is the information system and the electronic procurement model that we implement in Portugal. Electronic procurement is mandatory in Portugal since the 1st of November 2009. We were the first European country to implement it mandatory. And we have several amendments to the code since 2008. The summary is here. And let me tell you that some of the amendments was not only the result of our experience, was also the result of the memorandum of understanding with Troika. We have several obligations that results from the Troika presence in Portugal that were mandatory to amend the code. The lessons we learned were several, of course, like all the countries, but the first thing that is important from our experience is we implement a model that is single in Europe. It's single because it's decentralized and it works. We don't have a single electronic platform. We have several, and they are private. And we work with these electronic platforms within a SaaS model. SaaS means for software as a service model. And this is very important because this was done in 2009, where the cloud-based solutions were still most of theoretical field for many public entities and private entities. But we did implement it by then, and it's working. We also integrate the concessions for public works and public services, and we have something that is very important, that is we have tools to monitoring the public expenses. We have now information that is public, and part of it is public, part of it is not public, but we have structured data that allow us to monitoring the public expenditure. We have also something that makes all the difference in our process. We have transparency, and we have transparency because we have information that is web accessed with no conditions. Everybody can go there and see which contracts are being realized or awarded in the public administration, which price, which products, in which conditions, to which suppliers, who was invited, who submit the proposal. The information that is not public is the detail for the proposals, but all the rest is public. Since August 2013, we also have the document itself. So, besides the structured data on the system, and what you are seeing now is a view from the system, the homepage for our system, we have the scanned document for the contract. It's mandatory for all the contracts over 10,000 euros. Okay? Besides that, we have also information regarding execution of the contracts. So it is possible today to know the difference between the contract price awarded and the final payment. We have the difference between the dates. Whenever we sign a contract for 1 year, but really took 2 years, that information is on the system. And they also, the public contracting authorities have to justify, indicate the reasons why the difference in price and why the difference in time. If it is for public work, the reasons are within structured information, and they have to record all the detail for those reasons. We also have in one central point all the information about the notices. So the notice in Portugal, they have to be published in our official journal, and they come automatically to our system on real time. So whenever they are public on the official journal, they will submit to us and will be all centralized here with structured information. From the positive and negative outcomes, I try to summarize here the most important to us. And I think that our model has been a great achievement in Portugal. It works. It's running for 6 years. It's not perfect, but we are planning to introduce quite a lot of changes. I think from SME's point of view, that is a major concern for Europe and for many countries. Electronic procurement, it helps. Frankly, I think that provides better access to the tenders information and for submitting a proposal. Transparency, that is very important, let me tell you from my experience, changed the behavior of the contracting authorities. Since we have the system working, the contracting authorities are behaving in a different way. Before, they tend to just award a contract without consider any judgment. Today, if all the polemic contracts, they are on the news on TV. So 8 o'clock news that are the most important in Portugal, the opening news is the contract that is on the system, either because the Prime Minister bought some flowers that are too expensive, either because the cars they are renting should not be the ones they should renting now with this economical crisis, whatever. This is a very, very powerful tool, okay? In terms of political and economical terms, it is a very powerful tool. From the negative side, I think our code is very dense. I'm not a lawyer, as you already know, and for me, that is a nightmare. Our code is 473 articles, almost 500 articles. I think that is the paradise for the lawyers, but for me, it's really a good weapon. Because if you print it, you can hurt somebody if you throw it. It's not that effective as a nuclear weapon, but it hurts, believe me. There are some problems that are most of the application of the procedures. I was telling before, people and contracting authorities don't know how to apply in practice. Because for the most complex process like the SPD or the competitive dialogue or whatever, the law is not enough. You need to understand what that means in practice. You need to learn. And the system, for instance, for the normally low price, I think Portugal is one of the few countries that establish what is the normally low price. From my point of view, it should not be on the law. That is to be defined by the contracting authority. You cannot say it's above 50% is good or bad. You don't know. You simply don't know. It will depend too much on what you are buying. You cannot define this one and make everything the same. And one of the things that we are correcting now is the regulation for the electronic platforms. The model is good, but they have too much freedom right now and need to be regulated. So for the new directives, the major challenge we have here in Portugal is to implement a new governance model. I'm a little bit surprised that this was not a topic for the sessions, at least the ones I've been through. because this is the first time that governance is on the directive law. And I think governance is a critical point. I don't know about other countries, but I think it's very similar to Portugal. We have different attributions with different public entities. They will conduct within their authority, but there's no macro layer that says the relations between these entities. Because they are public, they're going to do as they want, and sometimes they are fighting and competing to do better and more, and even sometimes step over on the neighbor attributions. That is the reality we have in Portugal, and I think it's the reality we have in all the countries. So the governance model, from my point of view, in the European directives is very light. I would recommend it to be more deep in terms of regulation, but it's there for the first time, and I think I welcome that because we are going through this to define new attributions for the public entities and the relation among the public entities through this model. Okay, so the regulation is one of the key issues, and we want to pass from one passive situation to a dynamic situation. Since you're going to have the presentation, I only have 2 minutes. One of the major things that is under discussion in Portugal is for the electronic model we have, that is since 2009 already mandatory for awarding phase. As you know, the new directives are predicting the mandatory step until the e-submission phase, which is a little bit back from what we have done so far. What we want to do is take this opportunity also to make the e-invoice mandatory within the new transposition. Although I'm afraid that we're going not so far this time, and I hope that we go and accomplish the life cycle within the ordering and invoicing. Let's see what are the results of the discussion we have inside the country for having this as a sequence process and not one phase-by-phase process. Last but not least, we are doing something that is a huge challenge. We are providing an information system where we want to make interoperability within the electronic platforms mandatory. That means that we're going to change one of the business models that is implemented. Today, only contracting authorities can select the platform they want to use. So the economic operator, if he wants to sell something to a contracting authority, have to use their own electronic platform. In the future, what we want to happen is also the economic operator can select their tool the way they want to do it, and both of the solutions have to communicate and send information from one to another. That is a huge step. That is a very complex information system, and that's what we are planning to do on the next 1.5 years. Okay, that's my presentation.
So the transposition will be done in a year?
The transposition in Portugal was already submitted to the government 2 proposals. One proposal changed deeply the code we have, is really a new code. Another proposal is the last code with the few surgical changes for them to choose. Either maintain the same structure or a new structure with the same things we want to do, of course, but the structure of the code to be quite different, because they want a code that is thinner, is lighter, easy to understand, and this is political decision. Frankly, here, I think the lawyers will try to influence the process. I don't know who is going to win, and the plan is to transpose before April 16, 2016, but I have, at least I know the intention is that I have no data to know if it will be possible, okay?